Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so excited to learn more about the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association's latest program to help the individuals with hearing loss in the workplace called Amplify Access. So before we dive too deep into it, can you just give a little overview of what the program is?
Sure. Amplify Access is an employer education program focused on accessibility and specifically accessibility for individuals with hearing loss or individuals who are deaf. It provides resources, tools, and knowledge to employers to help them better prepare their work environments so that when they either attract or happen to have an individual who is hard of hearing or deaf, they are prepared and the workplace is inclusive.
That's amazing. And I like how it's specifically for hearing loss because a lot of these accessibility programs tend to be very broad. Still great to have, but it's nice to see that this is specifically for hard of hearing and deaf individuals. Um, so let's go a little deeper into this now. So it contains a few different modules, and what might it look like for the person taking this course? Um, what does that look like?
Sure. Maybe I can start with just the modules themselves. I'll describe those and then I can actually share my screen and give you a little snippet of the learning platform itself and what it looks like. So as you mentioned, there are a number of modules. There's 4 in total, and the modules are delivered through a learning management system. They take about an hour. It really depends on, the speed at which you read. There may be some pieces that the learner is already aware of, so they might navigate through that a little bit faster. But every module takes about an hour. The first one is called Challenge Your Beliefs and Address Workplace Barriers. And it really dives into understanding both deaf culture and the hearing loss experience so that the individual gets a better appreciation and hopefully is able to empathize with some of the barriers that individuals with hearing loss, like ourselves, might encounter in a workplace environment. The second one is called Accessible Communication Practices, and it is chock full of tips and tricks and goes over terminology so that, as an employer, you get a little bit more familiar with some of the things that you can put in place and have available for your employees or candidates when they arrive at an interview. The third module is called Accessible Recruitment, Onboarding, and Training. And that one is really geared to HR professionals in particular, not to suggest that, there's smaller organizations where you might not have an HR department. Maybe there's 5 people working there and the CEO is the HR person, the finance person, and everything else. So it really prepares you for attracting and properly onboarding individuals who are hard of hearing and deaf, and what things that you have to think of. And the last module kind of takes all of the learning from the previous 3 and applies it to different work environments. And that one's actually called Inclusive and Safe Work Environments. And we took a lot of time to try and give different employment sector environments. So we touch on healthcare, we touch on retail, we touch on manufacturing. There's lots of myths and misconceptions when it comes to certain employment sectors for individuals with a hearing loss. And we try and debunk those. We connect back in some of the information that the learners would have learned in accessible communication best practices and tie it into the particular work environments. So if you give me just one moment, I will open up my screen and share and give you a bit of a navigation.
That sounds wonderful. It's always nice to be able to see it in front of you as you're explaining, so appreciate that.
Absolutely. Okay, so you just let me know if you can
Yeah, you're
see
good.
that.
I can see it.
Okay. Okay, so this is the second module, Accessible Communication Practices. Every module starts with a welcome page, And the welcome page, get rid of this piece here. The welcome page goes over the learning objectives for the course itself, so that you're well aware of the topics that will be covered. And we move into basic communication practices, which is the first topic. And you will start to notice that every section within the module, we have put an approximate reading time. You can get a sense of, if you're on your 15-minute break, how much you might be able to get through during that time. And you can navigate in and out of the course and get back where you finished off. So I won't stop so that you can take in the content, obviously, but you can see that we've included quotes. We do try and structure it in such a way so there is some interactive pieces to it. So this one, these are tips on things you need to keep in mind when communicating. We use the short form of deaf and hard of hearing, but this one's a click. So you open it up and it's got some information. In other sections, you'll actually have small quizzes as you go along. So there's a blank during conversations with deaf and hard of hearing individuals. Will help you understand the message they're communicating with you. So you have a choice, and I'm going to choose maintaining eye contact and hitting submit. And you find out right away that you're correct.
Ooh. That's
You
awesome.
can, if you get it wrong, you can take it again. We didn't structure these courses in a way that it's pass fail, but obviously we want people to walk away with knowledge. So if I were to choose take again, it goes back to blank. If I pick something incorrect, it will give you little tips. It will not only just let you know you're wrong, but it'll give you an idea of why that is and maybe a hint of what the right answer could be. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a number of those, and I apologize. I just want to move to another section just to show you some of the different interactive elements that we've included. This particular section is about plain language, which is very important, frankly, not just for deaf and hard of hearing, just generally communication. Following plain language principles is always a good thing. So what I wanted to show you was just a different manner in which we share information. So this one's a little bit more of a checklist. So you just hit start here and navigate through each of these cards.
That's wonderful. I like how there's different variations of learning because everyone learns differently. So it's nice that there's kind of a balance there of different ways to digest the information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to go to just another section. Bear with me here. We do have in some sections, not all, you'll see links. So it will go out to an external source that provides you with information linked. So just as an FYI, some organizations, if your organization has really strong firewalls, you may run into some problems because these links do link out to external sources. So just be aware of that. But we also have included videos.
Wonderful.
A lot of the videos are YouTube. So again, if there's limitations, the organization needs to be aware of that and perhaps make some adjustments to the firewall to allow that to happen. And it's really, you may have the question as to why we didn't embed them, but oftentimes it's copyright laws with the videos. This video in particular, I absolutely love because it gives such an emotional connection to ASL and explains it just so well. All of our videos have closed captioning. Yeah, so that's just a sense. And here you can see this is another click through of information.
It's wonderful. And I love how you mentioned that some of these things are just great communication tips in general, not just for the deaf and hard of hearing community. And I think that's such an important
Ooh.
point to uh, make, because there is a lot I think everyone could learn these days about communication. So I think that's fantastic that it kind of encompasses more than just the deaf and hard of hearing community. So that's wonderful.
For sure. And we actually talk about universal design, which, every organization, every individual should be thinking about that in general terms, so that an individual can walk into an environment and have different options available to them, either to, I mean, I know we're talking about hearing loss or deafness, but it could be visual
Yep.
disabilities as well, any kind of sensory disability. But universal design is really about designing a space such that the individual has options when they enter it, such that they don't have to go and ask for something.
So true. And you've touched on this a little bit, but who is this program specifically for, and how will it benefit someone's workplace?
Hmm. It's applicable to a wide variety of professionals. Obviously, organizational leaders, if they're interested in, advancing their diversity, equity, inclusion, and we always add accessibility strategies. But specific professions, definitely HR professionals, um, DEI specialists, accessibility specialists. As you pointed out, there's a lot of training out there. We're both based in Ontario, so the AODA requires an element of training depending on what type of employer you are, and there's lots of training available, but it just scratches the surface. Ours is very specific to these two communities, and so as an accessibility specialist or professional, it gives you far more detail than a more general course might offer you.
That's fantastic. And I think too, with hearing loss, which a lot of people don't realize, is how many people it affects. And you're likely already working with someone who has some form of hearing loss, whether it be mild or severe, and you just don't know because you just don't know, and that's okay. But that's why this specific deaf and hard of hearing Amplify Access program is so important, because it affects so many more people than you realize. So uh, thank you to the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association for implementing something like this, because it's definitely needed. Um,
Yeah, I think
that
it's
is wonderful.
fabulous. And, I'm an HR professional myself, and having worked for, over 25 years in the HR profession, we know that legislatively we have to include certain things on job postings, whereby we have to open the door if you require an accommodation. What often happens behind the scenes, with the best of intentions, of course, is you can't possibly know everything. And particularly if you're in an organization where you don't have an accessibility specialist to tap into, somebody might make a request for cart services, as an example, and the recruiter doesn't really know what to do, how to navigate that, might not realize that there could be a 3 to 4 week delay before cart services is available. And then there's the whole trickle effect of that, which is, how does that recruiter manage the unintended bias that might happen when they have to go back to the hiring manager and say, I know you wanted to meet with April as a candidate. Unfortunately, it's going to take 3 weeks.
Right.
What
That's a good
happens
point.
then? Yeah. And knowing how to navigate those conversations and things like that, it's so critical. And, to your point around not knowing, I faked it for years. Years. I had long hair, far different than I am now, than I look now. No one knew at my workplace. No one knew. And where I was at personally, I wasn't at a point where I wanted to disclose.
Right.
And so I did everything possible until it wasn't working anymore. And then I had to advocate for myself. So, just being equipped so that when you do happen to encounter somebody that comes forward, like myself, and says, you know what, I've been struggling with this for probably the last 8 years in this organization. I need help. That as an HR professional or as a supervisor or manager, you know how to respond and where to look for help.
That's a good point. And to flip it too, like it's not necessarily just your employees either. Like if you have clients that you're interacting with too that might have hearing loss, there's going to be information here that can help you help them when you're in a meeting or whatnot. So I think it would just help overall, both employees, employers, clients. So
For sure.
that's wonderful. And correct me if I'm wrong, when you complete the program, you do get a certificate so it can, be shared on your resumes and, offered as a little extra little bit to your certificates and learnings.
Absolutely, yes. So when you finish all 4 modules, you will get an Amplify Access certificate. Our learning management system allows you to share direct from the platform into LinkedIn. So you can do an announcement. Some of you may have seen some of those splashy announcements. I just finished this course. So we have that capability that we've embedded within. So you can showcase the certificate, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a great thing to have. It's a great tool to add to your toolkit. And frankly, at some point in your life, you're likely going to encounter someone, whether it's in business or just day to day, who might be, dealing with hearing loss, and you'll know how to respond.
Right. And that's it. And a lot of these things too, you learn it once and it will stick with you. And I mean, not a lot of these things change in the hearing loss world. So you take it once and you've got it, and you can take the course again too if you need a refresher, right? So it's um, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. And so how can people learn more or find a way to take this course? And I'll make sure to include it all below. Um,
So you can either go to the CHA website, so www.chha.ca, and look under programs, and you'll see Amplify Access. The registration link will be there. Alternatively, we do have a link which I'll provide to you that goes direct to the learning management system. At that point, you do need to sign up, and I certainly encourage people before they sign up to read both the homepage and the About Us, because there's some fabulous information and context for individuals before they even get going. You can get a bit of a summary of each of the courses, and then you have to sign up. There's a bit of a mild delay. It's all automated. But you will get access if you choose to buy the bundle, which is all 4 courses for $150. Then you can do so. If you choose to take the courses individually, I think it's important to know that they are connected, meaning that you have to take them in the order that they are, sort of the order that I went over earlier. And the reason for that is the knowledge builds as you move forward. We would hate to have somebody, dive into module 3 where we're talking about accessible recruitment, and we're talking about some of the assistive devices and communication practices you can apply, and being confused and not having links and resources and the knowledge to know what the heck we're talking about. So that's why they're connected in that way. So you take module 1 first, you can pay for that one, and then you'll be able to access and pay for modules 2, 3, and 4.
That's wonderful. And I like that it's affordable too, like a program like this for $150. That is a wealth of knowledge. Like I think that is amazing. And most companies, I would hope, would have the budget for that because it is so important.
Yeah, and there's actually funding. There are funding sources that are available to companies that they can look into, that sometimes come available, usually provincially, whereby you can get some funding to support training like this, particularly when it comes to accessibility. Some provinces in Canada are very much focused on moving things forward and have funding sources to allow for that.
That's awesome. That's great to know. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to explain to us Amplify Access. This sounds like such an incredible program, and I'm surprised it doesn't already exist. Like, this is just so great that it's finally available to the public. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And I can't wait to share this with everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me to talk about it. I could, as you know, I can talk about this for days on end. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you again.
thanks. Bye.